What's up, guys? Welcome back to another video. This video is going to be my quick 8.0 Subtlety Rogue pre-patch guide. It's largely aimed at you PvP players, and we're going to get straight into this. Alright, so first off, I'll cover the changes that sub rogues have received in the BFA pre-patch that are largely going to affect us in PvP. Then I'll go over my talent build, and I'm going to also provide a couple quick openers that I do in different situations. Anyway, so when the patch dropped, a few changes came in. A couple things got added to global cooldown. Crimson Vial is now on global, which makes it a little bit more situational when we can use this. Finding that global can be a little bit rough sometimes when you're just out there. Usually it's when you're like resetting for a re-stealth or just trying to like play defensive in general. You can still use it there because we can't always spam feint anymore as Feint also now has a cooldown. It has 15-second cooldown, so if we're spec elusiveness, it is a fair bit weaker. Still probably going to be a pretty strong option, but right now a lot of people aren't favoring to use it because of the cooldown, but I still think it's powerful. The overall AoE part of Feint was also nerfed from 50 to 40%. And also the other big change too being that shadow techniques, this was on our artifact weapon formerly. Well, the actual passive we had, your auto attacks have a chance to generate a combo point. We always had that, but they added the 8 energy that the artifact trait used to give us, so at least we kept that through the patch, which is nice. And now we have this new passive too that makes our backstab and shadow strike slow the target, which formerly we would have to apply Nightblade to slow the target, so it's kind of nice that we can get a quick slow on people using that. Not the most powerful slow, but still slows being very important in PvP. Okay, for the first row talents, pretty much everything is viable here to some degree. I personally don't like Weapon Master that much, simply because of the RNG, but you can get some pretty funny burst with Weapon Master, with Shadow Strike, and a few other talents. Find Weakness is probably the most consistent for when you don't need to hit through Blessing of Protection from enemy paladins. That's why personally I still like Gloomblade as an option. I'll usually default Find Weakness or Gloomblade depending on the situation, but I find myself switching back and forth now, which is nice because it got kind of boring sometimes, pretty much only using Gloomblade, the old Master of Subtlety not being as popular as an option. For our second row talents here, Night Stalker being like pretty powerful and funny for like battleground situations. I don't believe it's as powerful in arena, as having Subterfuge is super nice for the 1 second longer on Shadow Dance, and as well as having access to our stealth abilities 3 seconds after opening. Allows you to get some pretty nice stun setups for your teammates, get those crowd control chains going, and it's just more versatile. Night Stalker kind of being like a damage steroid. And next row, Vigor. Deeper Stratagem, Mark for Deaths. I personally don't like Deeper Stratagem right now. It just doesn't seem good. I don't like playing with 100 energy, which leads me to play Vigor a lot of the time. Mark for Death actually pulls more DPS as far as straight damage goes, and I do like this option. I kind of think it will depend on the game's pace and how that kind of flushes out, because if we have enough burst that we don't need this Prey on the Weak talent to kill people, then we can use Shot in the Dark, and it kind of allows us to use less energy overall, and it kind of makes up for the lack of having Vigor in a lot of situations, which would make Mark for Death really powerful. Unless that happens, I'm not really sure how that feels. Overall, Vigor just like more forgiving. You know, you get CC'd, your energy isn't sitting at cap the whole time, so you can kind of you're making more effective damage over time. The following row here, Soothing Darkness. Very powerful in war mode and world PvP and duels in general, because the heal is actually 3%, whereas in rated PvP and instant situations such as battlegrounds and just regular like 2v2 and 3v3, Soothing Darkness does have a PvP mod, and it is only 1%. So even for a 6-second dance, you're still only going to get 6% health back, which, I mean, is something, but it's not the greatest. I would maybe consider using it if you're playing Mage Rogue 2, so you need to stall out for more resets and just have a little bit extra HP. Cheat Death is pretty good, I find, right now against Mage Rogue and things where you're going to get CC'd. Your healer's going to be stuck in CC as well, and you're not going to be able to do anything about it. Now, it does have a super long cooldown, and it does, with the current way it's working, giving you only 7% HP, it is possible to die through it, but once again, it's because it's also pre-patch. Damage is pretty blown up on certain classes, Assassin Rogues, and it's, I don't know, it's kind of hard to say. It kind of depends on how balance will end up going. Elusiveness, also, like I said, I think it's a very powerful option, but now with the nerf to the cooldown, you can only have it up of the time. And I mean, if the enemy team catches you using it and just holds their go for a couple seconds, they really can just punish you for it and kind of make it a useless talent. Um, but I do, at the same time, I do believe that it was way too strong, that we could just spam it. I mean, we're supposed to be rogues, like ninjas. We're supposed to be squishy if we get caught, but we're not supposed to get caught. So I think that's a good change as far as the class goes. But we may need something for getting trained. I'm not sure. Hopefully we can just hide behind crowd control, which I'm really hoping for, because that is a much better and more fun way to play rogue, in my opinion. The next row, anyway, moving on. Shot in the dark. It's actually pretty good. Since we're popping new dances all the time, entering stealth frequently, re-stealths and stuff, it's actually pretty good. However, like, my go-to option is still Prey on the Weak. Having that 10% damage, and the way it's been changed as well, is just way better. So basically now, if we cheap shot somebody and they trinket, they're still going to have the Prey on the Weak debuff, so they're going to be taking that 10% more damage for 6 seconds, which is pretty nice. Overall, it's just more strong than it was. Like, people already played it like all the time. It's just way better now. And now I guess moving on to the following row, there's not much to say about that one. Dark Shadows probably being my default option here. Now in instanced PvP, Dark Shadows is only 15%. So there is another build I might show you guys quick at the end that I've been messing around with that utilizes Night Stalker, and because its abilities are increased by 12% during dance, you can kind of use this to cover Dark Shadows if you don't have it and you want to play as Enveloping Shadows. But anyway, Dark Shadows just giving you that more burst during dance situations. Definitely really nice. Helps you get those kills in those CC windows, which is what you're trying to do as a sub-rogue. And there's not much else to say about this row. Alacrity, not really that good. Don't even think it performs well in PvE either. I think this should be replaced with something else as far as sub goes. Following row, we got Master of Shadows. Honestly, I've been playing this like every single game that I've played, every situation, because it's just hard to go from the having crazy energy regen this like past expansion to losing a bunch of things. Master of Shadows really helps that out. Honor talents, moving into PvP talents for War Mode. This would be my generic basic setup. Cold Blood and Phantom Assassin are two things that, unless they are changed, I won't drop. Cold Blood also not on the global cooldown, in case any of you are worried about that. The third option can kind of be changed out depending on the situation. I really like Smoke Bomb as an option. Also, you guys have seen me playing Shadowy Duel. Really do like this ability. Kind of depends on the comp you're against. Some things it doesn't work as well against. I don't know how competitive it is actually at top end, but it is definitely something that's fun to mess around with. You can always pick up Dagger in the Dark for a little bit extra damage during your dances on those Shadow Strikes, but it's not the greatest. If you're against a comp that can kite you a lot, say for example Frost Mages, probably not in RMP though, because you're probably going to want that bomb. Maneuverability, also pretty strong still, allowing us that small window of time to actually move. I personally don't pick this up a lot. I'm usually going with Smoke Bomb or Shadowy Duel lately. I also don't really like Death from Above, because even though it is stronger damage, I don't like the long wind-up on the animation. Now, you are immune to CC when you jump in the air until you hit the ground, but it still doesn't seem worth it a lot of time, because you could have got off 2 eviscerates in the time it takes to do the long animation, and overall this isn't as powerful. I think that it kind of needs a slight buff. And then other than that, I think that pretty well covers everything. I don't know if we can afford to play Thief's Bargain right now. Honestly, it's okay, but it doesn't increase our damage anymore, so it's kind of weak. That's pretty well going to do it for the talents, guys. Also, I guess I didn't talk about Gladiators Medallion. I kind of think that if you're a human still, like me, I should probably actually be playing Relentless or Adapt. Don't play Adapt against other rogues, though. You'll get sapped off. Gladiators Medallion, though, is just my favorite overall. But with our human racial sharing the long internal cooldown, it does seem significantly weaker, and it kind of feels silly to me to play actual Gladiators Medallion. I'll probably change my opinion potentially as I move into BFA and get some more testing done. I am going to make an updated guide when everyone's 120, but this is just something to help you guys have fun for the next couple of weeks while we're waiting for the expansion. Anyway, now I'll show you guys a couple openers before I leave this video. let's hop straight into that. Alright, for this clip, unfortunately I don't have any arena clips to show, but World PvP gets the job done here. Bottom right, we got Trophy GCD on, so you guys can follow the globals as they're happening as well. This guy obviously being low, but just to give you guys an opener or an opener idea of like what we're doing. So basically, you'll see I just zapped that rogue there. He had a dot on him though, so I blind him up. I go on the warrior here. You want a cheap shot, and then you want to apply your Nightblade with those points. What that does is it gives us 15% more damage, mostly just for the buff. The actual dot doesn't do insane damage, but it does help over time. And then I'm going to use my dance and my symbols to replenish my energy and of course get up that shadow dance, allowing use of stealth moves. I get off that shadow strike, and I just cold blood shadow strike this guy. Then I use the points on for a kidney shot. I'll show you guys right here on this rogue what a more standard opener look like in full. I get a cheap shot again. I use my 2 points for that Nightblade for that damage increase. I pop dance. I use shadow strike, or in this case, I guess it's backstab first. Normally, you want to use that on shadow strike. Just small error on my part, and then you cover up with another cheap shot that should give you 5 combo points. Then you can follow up with an eviscerate. After that, when that short cheap shot ends, you can cheap shot one more if needed, or just go back into regular damage, reset depending on the situation. Yeah, then I get mopped up by these two guys, so that's pretty cool. If you guys would like to see a more detailed opener guide, that's something I can definitely do. I'll probably wait until 120. Hopefully that at least helps you guys. Anyway, I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. And oh yeah, before I go, I'll show you guys that quick spec. So very quickly, I was just using this spec the other day. I find it very good in 2v2 if you're playing with a healer and you're against other squishy classes such as Rogue or even Feral Druids. I've used it on. Seems pretty good. What this build does, you lose Subterfuge unfortunately, so you get a little bit weaker openers. But what it does is you have that fine weakness for those Shadow Strikes to apply that debuff, also only being 20% reduced armor in PvP. This build being heavily based around Shadow Strike damage. You have Night Stalker to cover up the lack of damage from Dark Shadows, which once again is only 15% in PvP. Night Stalker's 12, so you just lose a little bit of damage. You move faster when you're stealth and dance, so you're a little bit more mobile. You have that Vigor for that increased energy, Praying the Weak for the more damage during stuns, and then you have Enveloping Shadows, which gives us an additional dance charge, and it allows us to bring our Shadow Dances back off cooldown quicker, because by using finishers, you actually bring back your Shadow Dance cooldown. The sustained damage of this build I find is a lot higher. However, once again, it's going to depend on balance whether this is going to be viable or not. Just something to think about and maybe something you guys can try out. Let me know in the comments below what you thought of this video. Please like, comment, subscribe for more. We'll see you guys all next time.